Okay, so what I was saying about managing expectations. So like, let's see, what's another good example in video games of something that manages expectations really well? I mean, this game does, like, right from the beginning, it does a really good job of teaching you that, well, this is how the game works, and these mechanics will be hard. The narrative sets you up for the idea that this game's going to be hard by being like, you know, oh, you're climbing this mysterious mountain that you weren't ready for, and that will... And, you know, they set climbing this mountain up as something that is, itself, super difficult, so it feels natural for the game to be difficult, and then right from the beginning of the game, it's not easy. Like, the beginning of the game isn't super hard, but it's definitely not easy, and it offers extra challenges in the form of the berries, which is a really good way to set expectations for difficulty, by the way. Offering extra challenges is an amazing way to do that. I was just doing that by, like, you know, figuring out on the fly where I needed to go. I was bound to eventually die like that. But, so, you know, this game does a really good job of managing those kinds of expectations. And all of your animations really make how the animation, like, all your animations really sell your movement, which is important in a game based on movement. Like, all of your animations have to sell on movement. You can see that in other really good platformers, like in the Mega Man X games in particular, which are almost hands down better at the actual platforming part than the Mega Man games are. The way the animations are done really emphasizes that. Mega Man X feels a lot faster than Mega Man... I went to the wrong side, I needed to go to the bottom on that one. But Mega Man X feels a lot faster than Mega Man, and that's intentional. Like, they did a lot of work in the animations of that game to make Mega Man X feel faster. Not only does it lack the screen transitions of the original Mega Man, but it also, like, Mega Man X moves much faster and more fluidly than Mega Man does. Even before you get the dash, when Mega Man X is just running around, he still moves much more fluidly than the original Mega Man ever did, and that's fine, you know. The original Mega Man was a different style of platform. So the original Mega Man's animations sold what Mega Man did. But Mega Man X was a different game, so was a different style. So they had to switch around all the animations to match. They did a really good job of that. Mega Man X and its subsequent games, for the most part, are all really, really good at this. They're all absolutely amazing at it, really. But anyway, so this game does a really good job of it. If you want another good example, if you want a 3D example, Jak and Daxter 1 is a case study on how to do animation right. Like, it just is, and there's no denying that. It's absolutely beautiful. Other people have explained it better, so, you know, go listen to them. I think Extra Frames did a really good series on it a while back. And, you know, they just did a really good job. Like, if you ever want to learn animation for 3D, like, and you want to understand the basics, look at what Jak and Daxter did right. Because that will teach you, like the fundamentals of what you need to do to have good animation. And just the whole package of what you need to do to have good animation. Jak and Daxter has amazing animation, and it's one of the main reasons that game feels so fun to play. Especially for a game that came out relatively early in the PS2 era. Like, at that time, platformers were still kind of figuring out how to function well as platformers. In a 3D space, like there were a lot of good platformers around then, don't get me wrong, but things like camera and things like that hadn't really been worked out completely yet. They were still a bit clunky. Like, unlike, say, 2D platformers at the time, which were already completely fluid. But yeah, so animation is just one part of managing expectations. I almost didn't die there. And then I did. Yeah, that feels about right. Yeah. Anyway, so managing expectations in games. And I've always found this an interesting topic because I like to look at how games have influenced me. Like, not in the, like, how they shape my worldview kind of way, although that's also an interesting topic, but more in the how do games change the way that you interact with them? How do they give those messages to you? How do they set expectations for what the game is? And the answer is effectively art style. This game isn't just pixelated just because. It's pixelated because that gives it the right feel. You know, gotta have that mouthfeel, you know? Bad jokes aside, you have to make sure that your art style is reminiscent of the type of game that you want to make. And in some cases that's really easy, like, this is a 2D platformer, so it can very easily feel like a 2D platformer by being retro. Like, and that's all it really has to do. So long as it does that, it will feel like the 2D platformers it is trying to emulate. Yeah, that, gosh darn it. Okay, so other ways that games set expectations. Obviously the narrative does, you know? The narrative of Dark Souls is that you're gonna die and you have a really easy revival mechanic that's omnipresent. So like it's really selling you on the, you know, you're gonna die thing. In this game, also another indicator of how often you should die is how bad dying is. And it's one that we don't really... Wow, okay, that just killed me. It's one that we as players don't really think about very often, but it is an important one for developers to be thinking about, because it's very much part of how a player is going to experience a game, right? Like, in this, and in Dark Souls, and in other games, like, say, Super Meat Boy, death isn't really much of an obstacle. Like, especially in this, or Super Meat Boy. Like, it's barely an inconvenience. And it's mostly just another sign that you didn't quite succeed. And that's fundamentally, that's what it should be in a game like this. You want it to be easy to try again. Because you don't have any extra health. And because that's the way you've made the game work, you want everything else to reflect that. And that means having it be kind of hard to die. Or kind of hard to, not hard to die, but hard to really feel like death is a loss. Because in this, like, even if I fall down and die in the pit, I'm really only losing a couple extra seconds. It doesn't really matter to me. It's just as bad as me mistiming the breaking of one of these blocks again. Like, that's fundamentally as bad as it is for me when that happens. And that's it. It's not any worse for me because death is just so easy to recover from in this game. In Dark Souls, it's a little bit worse, but, you know, like, you have to go through sections, but honestly, if you're being careful in Dark Souls, you're gonna die a lot less than in this. You have a health bar, you have ways to heal, and yeah, you'll still die, but not as much as you will in this game, where anything touches you and you die. And then games like Mega Man X, for instance, give you a nice little health bar. And because you have a health bar and there's less instant kill things, screw instant kill things in Mega Man games, by the way. Just a PSA. Those are terrible, and they shouldn't be in Mega Man games. They were a bad idea. And what are otherwise, like, you know, virtually, like, beautifully done games. They really stick out as a sore thumb of something that is definitely wrong. I think I see where I have to make the transition to the right side of this block, and I don't really like it, but I guess I'll have to figure it out. But anyway, so what oh, well, oops. Come on, really? Oh, I didn't mean to climb up. Ugh. But anyway, so managing expectations. So then there's games like, most JRPGs are pretty harsh about death, right? Like, dying is a big... What? That got caught on the edge. Huh. So dying is a big deal in those games. There's usually some relatively large cost associated with it. But it's also usually harder to die in them. And when you do die, it should feel like it's more your fault. Which is another key component, like, as I'm sure anyone who's played enough games has experienced, when you die in a game that has really big death penalties and it doesn't feel like it's your fault, it really sucks. Like, it feels terrible. Like, I have quit games over that. Over, like, I die and I lose an hour of progress, and it felt like there was nothing I could have done to prevent that death. Like, that death was either completely random or just without foreknowledge. There was no way I could have known that that was going to happen. And that's gotten better in games over the years, as, you know, as game making as a field and art form has progressed. That's gotten a lot better. You still see games that are just not well designed, but that's just gonna be true no matter what, right? Like, there's gonna be badly designed games. We're just gonna have to live with that, just like there's always going to be bad drawings or bad songs. It comes with the territory of being an art, right? There's always going to be things that are made that just aren't as good as the other things that are made. And that's even before you start taking subjectivity into it, where you might think something's bad even when there's nothing in particular wrong with it from an objective point of view. Yeah, I don't know what I was doing there. Being silly, I think, is the best explanation. But, yeah, don't know what I was doing there either. But so, like, all the little game mechanics like that go into setting your expectations, right? And again, those are all things that you'll have carried over from other games. Like, for example, because it feels bad to die in other 3D adventure games, like Dark Souls, and there's a lot of other games where that death penalty is much more severe, it feels worse to die in Dark Souls than it otherwise would, because fundamentally you're just losing some souls, and that's not that bad. Like, you're really not losing that much, right? Like, especially if you keep your level up, or, you know, if you level up whenever you can, like, you usually are hardly losing any souls. And so it's definitely one of those things where it's like, it's being affected by expectations that are outside of the developer's control. And like, this game does a really good job of managing that. Like, this game has to deal with that you might be coming off of Mario or something like that, where it's a bit more floaty and a bit more forgiving, for the most part. There are some Mario games that are really hard, but for the most part Mario games are more forgiving and platforming. And then you come to this, where it's really close and you have to be really exact. And they manage that really well by having the beginning be a bit easier. I'm having a hard time talking here. The difficulty curve in this game is really gentle, and that's one of the reasons why. Because difficulty in platformers is really variable. And so they're, you know, maybe you just came from a platformer like Kirby's Epic Yarn, where I don't even think you can die in that game. And that's a very different experience from this, where you're gonna die every couple of seconds. I don't know, games definitely manage people's expectations differently. And part of good game design is managing those expectations such that your game feels good to play. It's definitely a very, like, that's one of the things that makes game design so interesting, right? And what makes just art so interesting in general is because the right thing to do isn't clear. Like, it's very situational. You know, is it a good idea to have death be super easy to recover from? Is it a good idea to have player death at all? Some games have done really well by not having it. How am I supposed to get up there in time to... Yeah, because I do, in fact, have to get up there in time to do that. Oh boy. I forgot to get on the right side of it. Whoops. This is a hard screen. I've been at this screen for almost 10 minutes at this point. Practicing this down here since I now know that I'll have to be able to do this maneuver up there anyway. Yeah, I knew as soon as I dashed there that I had messed up. Whoops. Yeah, that's the kind of experience I'm having with this game right now. But it's okay. I will power through. I will beat this section, and I will die on those spikes like a good gamer. My death is there. Yeah, I'm not sure what to talk about now, so, you know, this is kind of awkward. Okay, that was a little close, especially at the end there. Man, it would have really sucked to have been caught by surprise there and then just fallen to my death. Anyway, so that's all for this episode. Like, comment, subscribe, all that.